Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Third Banner Pod. I'm Kyle, also known as the Third Banner, and with me I have Ty and I have Ross. And we went ahead and decided to do this tonight instead of tomorrow night because we did have some breaking basketball news. And I'd love to say that our portal transfer recruiting thus far has been an improvement upon last year, but I think we all got a little bit of post traumatic stress disorder today with Keyon Menifield. He has chosen to take his talents to Arkansas. So he did not commit to Louisville. He was believed to be our number one target. And unfortunately for us, he picked elsewhere. So, with that being said, I don't know what your all's initial thoughts are, where we go from here. But Ty, what are you thinking, man?
I'll be honest, man. I'm getting a little worried. It's bringing up a lot of the PTSD from last year. When we talked last week about Minifield, that seemed like our guy. Everything was going so well. Um, and boy, when we watched his highlights, I remember we all were like, "Yep, that's the guy." To know that he's going to Arkansas is just it's a crushing blow. And it's getting worrisome because I don't really know where they're going to turn. There's just not a lot of info. I know that everyone likes to do the Kenny works in silence like lasagna, but it's just it ain't it's not working right now, man. I don't know. I don't know where we turn. I don't know who we're going for at this point. The Minifield news is crushing. It's crushing, man.
Yeah, he was definitely he was the one guy I wanted in the portal more than anybody thus far. It's not to say that somebody else can't become a big target and they can't shift their gears. The problem I have is that what eerily seems familiar from last year during the portal season, and there was a little bit of goalpost moving. It was because there was stuff hanging over her head, and blah blah blah. Well, then this year happens, and now I'm already seeing, well, it takes time, or there's just always some sort of, I don't want to say an excuse, but there's always something to fall back on. And I talked about it in the last pod. This is Louisville, man. We got standards. You got to keep those standards high. And I, losing Minifield is a big, big loss. That was the dude that we needed to be the facilitator and to run offense. There can be another guy that comes out. He wasn't going to be the end all be all because we still need shooters and we need more ball handlers still. But he would have been a big, big piece in relieving some of that stress off of Sky Clark.
Yeah, I think my issue is twofold with this. The first issue I have is that we we prioritize Minifield over everybody. He was and that's according to every inside person on the recruiting guys. That was our guy. We really thought we had him in the bag. I know Andrew Slater thought it was us and Bama, and that's the one guy we were always linked to. And with transfer portal recruiting, when these guys enter the transfer portal, I'd say 95% of them, and I mean, I know it's just a guess, 99% of stats are made up, it seems like these days. So why don't I make one up? But I feel like just about everybody already has an idea of where they're going when they enter the portal. They don't enter the portal until they know where they're going. So unless we can somehow convince somebody who's not in the portal to enter, I'm not seeing these current people that are entering, these current prospects, as guys that are entering like within the next 24 hours or so. I don't see them as guys that are going to come here. And I hope I'm wrong because a lot of people thought Minifield was entering to come here and he didn't. So there is a chance you can sway somebody, and NIL does change the game, but I think we're a step behind. So that's my first issue. But my second issue, and one that I don't think a lot of people maybe realize, is we had a guy, we had a good guard, we had a starting caliber guard in the state of Kentucky that wanted to come to Louisville. And how many times? And I mean, I know I said it on this podcast, I've said it elsewhere. You guys have seen it. I'm sure some of you have even said it. But I know I've said it on at least one of these previous episodes. How many times have we passed up a local guy who is a surefire thing and gotten the guy that we passed him for? Rajon Rondo, Chris Lofton. I know the guy last year that we could have gotten. He went elsewhere. I can't even remember his name right now. It escapes me. Do you
Justin
remember,
Powell.
Rob? What is it?
Justin Powell.
Justin Powell.
He's one of them, and there was somebody else, and I can't remember who it was. I wasn't actually thinking of Justin Powell, but that's another one. But there's just multiple people that we've passed on, and we've tried to land someone better. And I said back then, I said, I think this is a big mistake. Not that I didn't want Keyon Menifield. I've also said on here, if we can land him, yeah, but you need to be sure. That's my issue. You need to be sure. If you're going to pass on Davion McKnight, which by all indications from people that know him very well, I won't say how, but they know him very well. So put 2 and 2 together. They claim that he wanted to come here, but he did not feel prioritized when Sky Clark committed. And we both know that, or all three of us know that Keyon Menifield was prioritized. So the writing on the wall to me was the staff put all their eggs in that basket. Now McKnight's visiting places like Kansas, and here we are again. Like I said, I've just never seen it where we pass on these surefire things that are good players for a better player, and we actually end up with a better player. I just take that bird in the hand if the bird in the hand is a starting caliber guard. And I think that's where I'm most frustrated. It's like you put your trust in a guy that was at Washington who has no ties to the university or the state. You better make sure you get him. We failed to get him.
Another thing that's really frustrating me, and I know a lot of it comes down to fit, and it comes down to how they fit in your scheme and your style play. But guys that are good enough for coaches like Bill Self and Eric Musselman and Jamie Dixon, but they're not good enough for Kenny. Primo Spears is one that we reached out to last year. He transferring from Duquesne last year. And I remember when we reached out, everybody's like, "What, Primo Spears? Who's that?" The kid went to Georgetown this year, had a really good year, and now he's back in the portal again because Georgetown, of course, let go of Ewing. And he's down to Kansas, TCU, Arkansas. I mean, it's like, why, Kenny? Why can't we get this guy? What's wrong with him? There's just been a lot of that, and the McKnight thing is a big deal. Passing on Davion McKnight, who, from all intents and purposes, wanted to come here, and because we've slowballed him or moved on, now we've heard recently from sources close to him that he will go anywhere but Louisville at this point. I don't know. I don't know what the plan is. I don't know, and that's another part of it. We don't know what the plan is because we don't hear anything. And I don't need Kenny Payne to go out and host his own podcast and say, "Yeah, we're going for this guy." I don't need that. But there's just not a lot of news, not a lot of, hey, I've talked to the staff. They're really prioritizing this guy. Menifield was that one.
He was the guy.
And he was the one that everybody said it on Twitter. Everybody reacted. That's the guy. That's the guy. How many Louisville Twitter accounts, sports Twitter accounts over the past week when Menifield went in, eyeball reactions to everything, like that was the one. You miss out on it. I don't know what you turn to.
Yeah. And the bigger thing too is that when our season was over and everybody's second season, so to speak, was just getting started, that was an opportunity for us to make some ground with other coaches still playing. Like, our coaches had an opportunity to really be out there. They did get some players pretty quickly, but those players seemed like they were already lined up, like everything was ready to go there. We've now lost our advantage. UConn's won the championship. The college basketball season's over. Now you've got everybody's staff's just going full bore. We lost any sort of possible advantage that you could have had with the other teams being busy. And, a lot of those teams, I know they're still reaching out and recruiting and doing their thing. And it definitely helps if you're still playing to recruit a guy. But that can go both ways. That can be a big selling angle. Look, we didn't make the tournament. We have plenty of PT. We've got great NIL. We've got all the facilities. Your opportunities here. And now you're going against everybody. The season's over, and we lost that advantage. As far as McKnight, I got people that are really, really close to him. And the conversations I've had are, it's not going to happen now. Even if we came back asking, it sounds like, that's done. They burned that bridge down. It's over. Like you can't get it back. And it was because of the vibe that they gave Dave and his mother, pretty much, from what I understand. So I would look for Kansas and Memphis to be major players in that recruitment. I would expect him to go to one of those two places. So the other thing too is that we don't need KP, like you said, Ty. We don't need KP to go out there, and Nolan. We don't need these guys going out there and telling us what they're going to do. But you damn well better get guys here. Like you better get guys here. That's the end of it. Like, you get guys. So everybody shut the hell up after we got 3 commitments that week. Like, the vibe was a lot different. But the portal season's different. That's different from how we got Flowers, how we got Evans. Sky Clark was a guy that probably should have been here last year. So that was kind of a shoe-in with the way things fell apart at Illinois. Like, a lot of those things were kind of, I don't want to say gift wrap. The staff worked for him, but the portal season is different. It's real competitive. Got to get guys here. And I don't know. Yeah. Well, I guess they better. I just don't like how they seem like they shallow everything in on like one player, and then we miss on everybody else that you could have possibly had. Like, stop doing that. Like, I don't know what else to say.
It's like there's not enough urgency or something. I don't know. There's not enough urgency.
How's it going, Dalton? Dalton Pence in the house. He also has a good podcast, Locked On Louisville.
Shout out Dalton.
What's up, Dalton?
I believe he does one every day of the week. I could be wrong on that. I've seen a lot of them. I've watched a lot of them, but check it out. Locked On Louisville, Dalton's podcast. Yeah, guys, I think my big frustration too, and I've already seen people allude to having 3 5-stars committed. Well, first off, they're technically not. They're high 4-stars, but I'm not going to get into the semantics of a high 4-star, a low 5-star, a high 5-star. But what I will say is I am happy about that. And we have praised that, at least on this podcast. I know we have. But we're in a different era, guys. Like, we are in such a different era right now. And I've believed ever since the portal that my big thing is that eventually, and I didn't know exactly when, and I still don't technically, but I always felt like recruiting is going to shift to transfers, and then these smaller schools are going to become a farm system for guys out of high school. And then whichever ones are good, we'll just move up within a year or two of the portal. And will there be exceptions? Absolutely. I think you're going to have like your top 5 to top 10 players in the class will still be heavily recruited by the big blue bloods. And we can land guys like that. But this idea that, hey, you landed the 40th best player in high school in this class, and now you're going to roll him out there and he's going to be a starter, or he's going to get you 25, 30 minutes his first season and he's going to kill it. It just doesn't happen very much. I mean, look at the teams in the elite. I'm going to go all the way out to the Elite 8, the final 8 teams. You could probably stretch it to 16.
Sweet
but
16
I haven't done
for
that
Sweet
research.
16 for sure.
But definitely the final 8 teams were loaded with experience, whether it was from the portal or whether they were just a really small school that were able to keep all their guys, like a Florida Atlantic. That's what wins today. Like, yeah, you can get a generational freshman that comes in and gives you an instant impact, but you might get one if you're lucky. But this idea that we're going to load this roster, I mean, those guys are good for the future, but here's the thing about the transfer portal as well. You have to keep those guys. So it's very risky business to load your roster, front load it with a bunch of like top 30 freshmen, because if they don't pan out, they're going to leave. And so the safe bet for these bigger schools with each season that passes is to land guys in the portal, land surefire guys, whether it's guys from like an Oral Roberts, like the guard that entered the portal. He's proven himself like over the course of multiple seasons now. So he's ready to move up in competition. Or if it's a guy who maybe his situation's just not a good fit, but he has all the talent in the world and he's at a blue blood, a Caleb Love, maybe he is a better fit somewhere else. So a guy like that. But this idea of like, hey, don't worry that you lost Keyon Menifield because you've got Trenton Flowers who reclass and he's a top 30 guy or whatever. Great. But I don't think that helps us next year. I think that's a great building block. And if you can mix the roster and like even it out where you get a few of those guys and then you front load it with a bunch of impact portal guys, that's great. That's great. But the one and done is no longer one. It's just done. Like we're not, Calipari was the only one that really succeeded for a time, and he didn't even. And he underachieved.
Coach K did it too.
Coach K started to do it too, but Coach K's gone. Calipari's had a decline in his program as far as what he rolls out there, and he's just underachieved overall with that system. And now it's not even a thing. Like if you're doing that now, like you're probably not even going to make it to the Sweet 16. So, long story short, like we have to land. It's not being negative, and you're not ignoring the fact that we landed Trenton Flowers, that we landed Dennis Evans, and that we landed Sky Clark, who technically is a transfer, but he's almost like a freshman with the amount of experience he's had. He had a half season at Illinois before he came here, but he has some experience. So he's like in between an experienced player and a freshman. He's like somewhere in the middle there. But it's not to ignore those guys. It's to say like, that's great. We need guards. We need impact guards. We probably need another big. And it just gives so much flashbacks to last season with this whole, we're definitely going to get this guy. You guys just need to be patient. And then we don't. And a school like Arkansas, who we've been hearing, well, Kenny Payne just focuses on a few guys and he goes after those guys. Arkansas, they reached out to me and asked me if I was entering a transfer portal. I mean,
I was going to ask if you all got your recruiting letter from Arkansas.
I did. They said, hey, we just want to know if you're interested in coming and playing under Eric Musselman. I said, hey, as long as he keeps his shirt on whenever he's next to me, I don't care what the man does. I'll play for him. Absolutely. And then they said, well, you're on a waiting list. There's about 5,000 better players in front of you. But the bottom line is they reach out to everybody. They cast a wide net, and look what it does. And I've heard other people online say, well, that's stupid. Why would we do that? Just focus on the ones you want. Well, because you end up like we are now. We lost a guy to the guy that casted the wide net. So you tell me which one works better.
Well, I mean, I think, I believe that, I think Rick learned his lesson from that while he was here. He did that a couple of times where he really zeroed in on some players, and it kind of bit him in the end. I think there in the aughts, the beginning of the aughts, and stuff, he really started realizing like it's okay to prioritize a player here in every class that's a position of need. But you still have to go out and heavily recruit the same position in case that doesn't happen, because recruiting is brutal, man. And, I think that's the inexperience we're seeing with this staff. The feeling I get is that they just continue to think that players are just lining up to knock the door down here. And that might be true to an extent, but you got to close on these guys. You got to get them here. And they're not doing that. And then when they've taken the approach that they seem to have taken, you're left with nothing. You got empty hands and you got zero players, and you need experience like that. We got to get experienced guys. I think the revolution of the 3-point shot with how Steph Curry has revolutionized the game is that effect is trickling down to the college game in the sense that you don't see a lot of high school players that can just really light it up at a consistent level at the college level when they first come in. Okay. But after a couple of years of college, and you've got the speed and pace of the game down, and you've gotten some college coaching, and you've worked on your shot and the muscle memory, all the technique is just more refined. Like that's the effect that we're seeing as far as the upperclassmen being more of an impact now. So I think the 3-point evolution has just changed the game, and it's having a major effect on the college game. And that's why we're seeing a lot of these guys that are hot transfer portal guys. It's because they can score from all three levels, really. I mean, at least they can score from beyond the arc, or they can get their own shot, and break a guy down off the dribble. But that 3-point shot, that 3-point percentage and that consistency it's really it's unheralded right now, really. And there's not a lot of substitutes for it right now.
So I guess the question now remains, where do we turn? I wish we could come in here and tell you that we had a little more concrete evidence to who we're turning to, but I mean, we just don't. I can say that we have apparently reached out to North Texas guard Tyler Perry, who we talked about last week.
And it sounds like I'd love to have him, but it sounds like he's a Texas Tech lock. That's where
how the reaching out part works. And North Texas coach did go to Texas Tech. So, we've talked some other names. I did check before we come on. Jace Carter from Illinois Chicago is still available. Damian Dunn from Temple is still available. Guys that I've brought up are available. But and there's going to be more, but I don't know, man. I was really kind of I was ready for the Menifield and Clark backfield.
I mean, what the hell happened? Like that Nick Timberlake that I brought up 3 weeks ago. Okay, I don't think he's committed anywhere yet. Last I heard,
he was looking like North Carolina.
North Carolina.
He is going to North Carolina.
It's not committed, but he has crystal balls in North Carolina.
Yeah, so I mean, that's something I hadn't heard, but I mean, I didn't even hear our name mentioned with a kid like that one time, not once.
And that's the problem. That's the problem I see, because again, that goes back to the Arkansas thing. Arkansas is just throwing their name out there, and some of them, at times, they're probably not serious. But I would rather reach out, have second options, third options at positions. That's what they do in football all the time. In football, they make offers, and then they're not always committable offers, if that makes sense. It's the same thing. But here we are. I see lists of 15 schools, and we're not on it. And it's why? You're a guard. You don't have to be our first option. But then I see that we're reaching out to one or two random project guards, which makes me think that it's more serious, like a Keyshawn Hall. Keyshawn Hall. And it's okay, I wouldn't be as nervous about the potential of relying on him as a serious get if it wasn't for the fact that that's about all we're hearing about. So it's if he was just one of 30 or 40 people, fine, great, reach out to the guy, because you never know what can happen. But man, I'd rather know that I went down swinging and missed on 5 really good guards, or 10 really good, actually more than 5, because that's about what we missed on last year. 10 or 15 really good guards, and we went after them hard, and we didn't get them. I'm still not going to be thrilled, obviously. But the alternative is we go after one guard. We put our eggs in one basket after Sky Clark. And, I mean, the argument's going to be, how do you know, Kyle, that they didn't? I mean, yeah, I'm sure they've reached out to a few other guards, but we don't see our name amongst a lot of them, which just begs the question I have, which is, what are we changing this offseason from last offseason? And I still have not figured that out, because we didn't change any assistants. Josh Jameson, what does he do? And you can say that's oh, I'm sure that, Kyle, you don't know everything he does. No, I don't. You know why? Because the staff doesn't talk about anything. Nolan Smith finally went in front of the cameras and had a pretty good interview. But Nolan's always been the exception. He's always been the only one out in front of the cameras, the only one is going to events. He's the only one that went to Spain. What are these other coaches doing? What are they doing? And we don't know. And so whenever we start missing on guys like Keyon Menifield, that's the first question I have is like, okay, what is the difference between what we're doing now and what we did last year? Josh Hurd did not get up in front of the podium and talk about changes that were going to be made. We just went 4-28. We just had our worst season in the history of the program. And everybody acts like it's just another off season. And that's where I, as a fan, am frustrated. It's like, what are we doing?
It's hard to say, man. I brought it up just a little bit earlier. It just the inexperience of this staff doesn't. It seems to scream in places where you don't want to be seeing it or hearing it. You know, the question is, why are we not in on a lot of these guys? Like, you know, maybe they are putting, you know, Louisville's name out there, but for whatever reason, you know, these kids aren't sharing that, and or it's not being reported by recruiting, national recruiting guys, or even our local recruiting guys. You know, it's just not happening. So I mean, what you could end all of this, you could end all of this negative attention, so to speak, or this pessimism by showing results. And again, I said when our season ended, that next week we saw like they had some answers. Okay, that was a good start. That was a really good start. I don't want to take away from that. Like, I'm still excited about those players. They've got a lot of potential, but they're young. They're very young. We don't have any experience, and they're not guys that I feel like, or any of us really have any confidence in, that we can just lean on, like, especially with an inexperienced staff. You know, if it'd be one thing if it was a staff where, you know, that they've had experience doing this, but we don't have that, and we know we don't have that. So what what are we doing? Like, why is this like this? You should have known last year. You know, we went after what was his name, Tyrese Hunter, last year. Was he
Same
the big
thing.
one? He was the big one. And then, you know, at the same time, we were going after Imani Bates. Apparently, we didn't want to play ball with Tyrese Hunter and the NIL. That's kind of what it seemed like.
Isaiah Mosley didn't want to play with.
Mosley was the
what
one.
we
That
heard.
No. I'm saying, yeah, Mosley didn't want to play with Bates, but I'm saying we didn't want to play ball with Hunter and basically
in the NIL department.
Yes,
Oh,
and match the NIL offer. And then after Mosley, it was, you know, who was it? Malachi Smith. Didn't we go after him? You know, it was just like, it was one thing after another. You kept seeing just like, okay, this is our guy. Okay, well, we didn't get him. And then this is our guy. And then you didn't get him. And then, okay, well, this is our guy. Like, you can't approach recruiting that way. It does not work.
Them all.
Yeah,
Bring them together on visits and say, hey, if you don't commit, that guy might.
You gotta. From me, you gotta be going after all these guys equally hard, the same way. Be selling them all and be like, look. And you got to put the power in your hands as far as sales. Okay. You've got to make these other players think, well, you know, there's somebody coming here to take your spot. Like, I'm going to need something soon. You know, when our season ended, you know, guys like Ethan over at Louisville Sports Live, you know, Dalton, it was reported on Rivals. Like, the staff had about 6 weeks to really nail it down. We're 4 weeks, basically 4 weeks out of our season ending now. We got like 2 weeks left, our window. Okay. So yeah, you can still get guys into May, but a lot of the players are going to be off the table and you're going to be left with scraps. And that's exactly how we finished last year. We ended up with players that shouldn't have been here or shouldn't have been put in a capacity to where they had to be leaned on to contribute. They just didn't give us anything, and that's looking where we're heading again. And I don't know how they're going to fix it or why it's like this, but they need to do it. They're the ones paid. Yeah. They're the ones being paid. And yeah, I'm just a guy on here on a camera talking about it, but you know, I feel like a lot of our sentiments are a lot of the same that a lot of the fan base is sharing. You know,
Oh,
it's
absolutely.
it's worrisome. Like Mike Rutherford was talking about today on his radio show after the Menifield news broke. He said it was nonstop for the next hour and a half, 2 hours, just fans texting in, like about Menifield. Like that should tell you something. Like the fans want this to happen. Okay, I think there's a lot of us saying, "Come on, Kenny,
Know us
make it
something,
happen."
man.
Yeah,
But see
like
that
come on.
Russ, you're right. Like we we're on the message boards. We have our Discord. I know a lot of people have told us that sometimes we're overly negative. We all want this to work. Kenny,
Absolutely.
like we all want this. Why would you not? It would be such a great story. Kenny, you're one of our own. Like we want this to happen. But to this point, it's just not working. And when you go 4-28, the worst season we've ever had, I'm sorry, but there's just not a lot of stuff to be positive about right now. You're gonna have to provide that. The week
Mhm.
that we got Clark, Evans, and Flowers, that was fantastic. There's been nothing since. Nothing since. And the season is now over. Other schools that were, still playing, they're going to start getting involved. UConn is going to have to figure out their roster. They're going to lose Jordan Hawkins. They might lose Tristan Newton. They're going to have to find pieces. They're just coming off a championship. They're going to be sexy, and people are going to want to go there. Florida Atlantic, I'm sure they're going to have to fight to keep their guys, and they're going to try to go get more guys to make another run at it. There's so many
Oh
other
yeah.
schools that are going to be doing this. You're now in the same boat as them, where you had a time beforehand to get a head start on it.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's very frustrating time.
I'd like to see more transparency from this staff. What are we doing different? We need to know because if you want us on board, I feel like there's this odd thing, like some of the fans, the propane fans are that just think you can't do any wrong. They say that, you should not question any of this and just trust the staff. Well, that doesn't work once you've had a season and off season like what we had last year. So you have to show us something. And I mean, the incoming freshmen, I already alluded to that earlier. I'm not going to get too much into it, but that helps us in the future. It doesn't help us next year. It doesn't help us in the new era where the best teams that stay in a tournament the second weekend and beyond are the teams that have experienced guys, not guys learning on the fly to how to play college basketball. So that's a great thing, but that's an underlying foundation. Actually, that's the opposite. That's like you know, it's like the shiny part of the outside. The underlying foundation are these experienced guys in the portal, these instant impact guys. So, what are we doing? How are we recruiting? What is the strategy involved in this recruiting? You don't have to feel like everybody acts like this is like a big top secret thing. Like we don't want to give away all of our secrets. I hate to tell you, whatever secrets that you're keeping, you might as well just get rid of them, much less tell people because they're not working. It's not working. Go after a bunch of people at once. Honestly, I hope they're blowing up currently enrolled players at schools. I don't care. Nobody else cares about tampering, not in 2023. Throw that crap out the window. Everybody's doing it. They're doing it to
I
your
mean,
players as you're doing it to theirs. Well, probably not our players, unfortunately, most of them. But a lot of players are getting tampered with. And yeah, so
yeah,
don't worry about that. You
FAU.
need to be blowing these guys up and, trying to get them to enter the portal and then never letting up. I mean, we have to interpret what happens because we get nothing out of this university leadership. We get nothing out of our staff. So we have to interpret. And what I interpret happens is that we take our foot off the gas. We think guys are in the bag. We take our foot off the gas and then they don't come here. And somebody else swoops in and goes pedal to the metal and floors it until they commit to them, which is exactly what Musbus did with Menifield. He wasn't even in the final two, according to everybody. All of a sudden, pedal to the metal, 0 to 60. And meanwhile, Kenny Payne's like a turtle walking backwards. As soon as he thinks they're coming, he just freaking, that's the impression I get. And if that's not true, Kenny, if that's not true, Nolan, if that's not true, Josh, if that's not true, Danny, how would I know? Nolan, you're the only one that talks at all out of all of these guys. And that's the problem here. And you fans that think that it's just people being negative, that's your choice. But we've been given nothing. I don't go off of blind faith. I have to have some sort of tangible, concrete evidence that we're doing something about these things. So when you refuse to talk, and when somebody, heaven forbid, they ask, hey, what are you doing with your staff? Are you going to make any changes? And your answer is, I don't understand the question. I have the best staff in the country. That pretty much tells me the only problem with last year was the roster you claimed that you inherited, and that there's nothing else you need to do. Your recruiting was fine. Your strategy, the way you recruit is fine. Well, it's time to prove it, man. And I'm not talking about just high school guys that are top 40 players. Go out there and land us some studs in the portal, multiple guards. We need them.
Yeah. As far as tampering, we know that it happens. I mean, FAU's coach went public at the podium and said that, hell, that people had been contacting his players while they were playing. That it definitely happens. I would be inclined to actually believe that. I feel that some of our players this past year were probably tampered with as well. Um, I was one that was, I've been on the record. I was big on Kamari Lands. I would not be surprised if there was some talking going on there during the season from his people and other coaching staffs. Maybe not to the significance that, like the FAU coaches alluded to this past week, but it's a sales game, and when it comes to sales and when it comes to recruiting, it's dog eat dog, man. And Muss has that dog in him, or that hog in him, if you want to say. And when he sniffs blood, man, he goes for it. And it does feel like when you base on what we've seen this year and what we saw last year, it feels like other staffs, I don't know if it's outworking us, but they have a greater sense of urgency at the very least. And there's only one way to change that. There's only one way to change that. The staff has to do it. They're the ones that are paid to do it.
28, you've got to recruit harder. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'll let you go back to you, but I just
No,
want
you're
to tell
good.
you got to recruit
Good.
twice as hard.
Yeah, that you had all the time. You had time. I don't know how else to say it. You had plenty of time. And like I said earlier, you've lost any sort of potential advantage that you had on your side with other teams playing. Those teams have finished out their season now, and now it's the Wild West out there. I mean, that's we keep hearing that we have all these big NIL pockets. Where are they? If it's supposedly all about NIL and we've got these deep NIL pockets, I don't know, man. Like, results are everything, and we're not seeing the results in the transfer portal. That's give me results, give me guys.
So to switch it up I'll try to switch up the vibe and the energy to football, if you guys don't mind. It's a much more refreshing topic, but I know Jeff Brohm. It's like polar op. It's like I don't even know how to transition from like all that to, well, hey, how do we talk about all these guys we're in on in football? Which I know football has a lot more players, so it's like you're going to have more to pick from. But we all know we're realistically in on studs in football, and we don't have to question what Jeff. I mean, there's a lot of news out there about what Jeff does. It's pretty transparent. Obviously, we don't know all the ins and outs, and we don't need to as fans, but we have a general idea of the blueprint, and that helps a lot. For example, we know he's in on a quarterback right now, Deuce Adams, who is a 2024 guy, and it sounds like he could commit tomorrow, and it sounds like it will be us. So have you guys had a chance? I mean, I already know the answer, but for the viewers and listeners, have you guys had a chance to check out his film?
Go ahead, Ty.
Hey, I watched a little bit of his huddle video, and we actually have that here. If we want to show that, I can scroll down here for us. This kid looks I like him. So he's only rated an
60 overlays,
85 rating according to 24/7 Sports. Rated as about the 59th best quarterback in the class, somewhere about the 800s in the composite. But I like what I see. 6'2", 175. He has a couple of throws in this huddle tape. Do we have that up, Kyle? We do? Okay.
Yeah, it's up.
Good deal.
Could you maximize the screen?
Yes.
Full
Yeah.
screen.
So
You have to describe it to the listeners, by the way, because they can't see what we're looking at.
can they see this right here? Our him running
The
for this
people
touchdown?
live can, but like when we put on like Spotify and
Gotcha.
stuff.
Well, he has a throw right here at this 100 or 1 minute and 1 mark where it's an off-platform throw off to his left. Just a beautiful throw. This one here where he's kind of running up the field, stepping up in the pocket and delivering a strike. I really like this Deuce Adam kid, and plus he has an elite Hall of
That's my
Fame
throw right there.
quarterback name. I mean, Deuce is just a great name for a quarterback, in my opinion.
It's a good name for any football player.
Exactly.
He can move. He can
Yeah.
move in the pocket. He can move out of the pocket. That's something that Brohm quarterbacks typically are not known for. And it's good to see that he's recruiting guys like that, because that's what Pierce Clarkson is supposed to be as well, as a mobile guy, not like a Lamar type of guy, which there's only one Lamar, but you know what I'm saying. Like he can escape
Can extend
pressure
plays.
and make plays with his legs. And it looks like this guy can as well.
Yeah.
I would love to know. I'm sorry. Go ahead,
Kyle.
Ross.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say I would love to know who this number 4 is. What class is number 4 in? The receiver. He has wheels, man.
Yeah. He's popping off on this tape. I don't know, man. No, my question is with Deuce, if he does
There he
commit.
goes.
There it is, number 4. If Deuce does commit, he doesn't seem like the traditional Brohm quarterback. And just off of what I can see, I'm curious if Jeff maybe is thinking about changing up his system just a little bit, because he seems more of the quarterbacks that we have recruited over the past few years.
I think it's like this. I'm a firm believer that ever since Vic came into the NFL, you can take it back to Randall Cunningham. You can take it back to, guys like Steve McNair or Steve Young. Guys like that were functional quarterbacks that could function in the pocket. Vic, especially near the end of his career in Philly, they're guys that can function in the pocket and make the throws downfield, but they can extend plays with their legs. Anybody that says that, somebody that has to be Peyton Manning or Tom Brady, that's an archaic way of thinking. I know those guys Brady's the GOAT. There's no way around that, okay? And I'm getting off topic for a minute, but if you can have a guy like Mahomes who can do all the things that Brady does, but also extend a play, and if you're playing zone coverage and it's between him and a linebacker and you're giving up 10 yards, like, why would you not want a guy that can run? It doesn't make any sense. So it's just another weapon. What I like in Deuce is that his feet, for a kid that's a 2024 kid, I've always been it's not to say that every quarterback comes out of Texas is going to be just a surefire all-star, or a high blue chipper, high caliber player. But there is a huge precedent of players coming out of the state of Texas and producing at a very high level in college and in at the NFL level. What I like about this kid, just because the level of football is just higher down there, it's just the way it is. But what I like about this kid is he's got very calm feet. Okay, he throws with his feet under him. He knows how to slide. He knows how to climb the ladder. He knows how to climb the pocket. He knows how to maneuver in the pocket. He seems to have a really good grasp on a lot of things that a kid his age normally needs more time with to work on. With the quarterback position, a lot of it starts in your legs and that ability to function within the pocket. And he seems to have that. And he also seems to have a pretty good head on his shoulders as far as he knows how to he knows how to manipulate defenses. There's plenty of times in that video where you can see he uses his eyes to hold safeties downfield, and then will throw the other way so that he creates bigger throwing windows. His arm isn't necessarily maybe the strongest. He seems to, his shoulder seems to be a little stiff. I don't know what that reason is. Seems to push the ball a little bit, but there's a lot to be happy with that kid, and there's a lot to work with. And like Kyle said, if that pocket does break down, he will take off and run, and he can run and he can get some yards. He kind of reminds me of I don't know if you remember the Florida State kid, DeAndre Francois. I think he had a little bit more live of an arm, or I had another comparison, but to me, I think this is a kid that is very, very good for your quarterback room. He's a kid that you could see working his way up the quarterback room and come redshirt sophomore year or a junior year, if things play out the way that they do, that he could be in the competition to be taking that starting spot. Or if an injury happened, you wouldn't have a whole lot of fears that he's going to have that possible deer in the headlights. The speed of the college game is definitely different from the high school game, but that would take some acclimation. But he's got a lot to work with, and his ceiling may not be the highest. We don't know. I mean, it's way too early to say that. But his floor is pretty high. I like what I see in the kid and his tape, and obviously a tape will make you look good, but he seems to have a lot of traits that seem to, for good quarterbacks that come natural, he seems to have a lot of those.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's you said a lot of what I was going to say. I think strength wise, obviously he can make intermediate throws very well. I think he can look off guys with his legs in a way, like move one way, throw across his body, which you don't recommend doing a whole lot of, but in a pinch, sometimes you have to. And he had a couple of highlights where he did that. I do think some of his weaknesses, his main weakness is his arm strength and his weight. He needs to gain about 15 pounds. At 6'2", he's 175, unless that's wrong. But if that's correct, and assuming that's correct, he would probably need to get up to 190, 195. Really, I mean, I'd prefer him be 200, 205, 210. But, I'm not – Rome wasn't built in a day here. So that's a 175.
Yeah, well, I mean,
That's a very small frame. So we would need to get him up to 190 before we get him.
He's a 24 kid too. He's still got an entire senior year of football.
Still plenty of room to grow.
Yeah. So hopefully,
and
he's pumping drinking his protein shakes, pumping the iron.
To me, he's not necessarily a player. Where I see this kid fitting in is he's a guy that is going to solidify your QB room early. He's going to fill a niche, and when it comes his time, when everything shakes out the way that it does, he's going to be there, and he's going to make a case to possibly be the guy. It's just the other thing that I like about him is, you talked about him and his feet and, kind of extending plays. What the other thing I really liked about him is that when he extended plays, he continues to keep his eyes down the field. Like he doesn't get tunnel vision and look to just run. Like he's moving and sliding and rolling out of the pocket and doing what he's doing for a reason. It's to extend the play so he can find a wide receiver downfield. That's just another example of what I was getting to. He seems to have a very good grasp. He seems to have high football IQ. And he, I think he's going to be a very valuable add. I'm excited about the kid. Like I said, I'm not looking for him to start in 25 or even 26, but this is something that Scott Satterfield and the last staff failed at. They failed miserably at. They could not build a QB room to save their life. And Scott was supposedly a QB's coach, and he was an offensive guy. He couldn't recruit quarterbacks, man. He couldn't do it. We saw that he couldn't do it. the guys like this, these are the guys you build your QB room with, and you groom them up, and you get them in weight, and you get them in the weight room, and you groom them through the system, let them learn the playbook. And if an injury or something happens, and it comes their time, then they're ready. But like it's the evolution of depth charts, and this is a kid you got to have. This is going to be a solid ad as long as he's a Cardinal tomorrow. So
I really like that, honestly. I really do. We went into, I brought up his rankings and stuff. And I'm not going to be the guy, I can't find 40 high school. I'm not doing that, but I like what I see. And you talk about the evolution of the game and the quarterback position, Ross. The thing that strikes that I saw immediately was the off-platform throws. It's something that's become a really big thing in the last few years. You saw with Mahomes kind of started. People are looking for that. Josh Allen can do it. As a Jets fan, I'm going to have to bring it up, but this is what got Zach Wilson drafted number 2, because he had a pro day just showing off his arm with off-platform throws. It's kind of the new evolution of the quarterback position.
Hell, I mean, your guy Rodgers made a living off of it in Green Bay.
Mm-hmm.
Aaron Rodgers has been, in the past decade, has made some incredible throws out of the pocket after the play has broken down, and he's killed teams in the playoffs at times doing that. To extend them onto the next round. He's done it. The one play that I always go back to my buddy Chris. In our Discord, he's my best friend, man. He's a big Cowboys fan, and that throw that Rodgers made, I think it was in Dallas. I think it may have been the year they won the Super Bowl. I can't remember for sure, but he rolled out of the pocket to the left side, to his non-throwing side, and threw like 40 yards downfield and threw a rope to a wide receiver that was sliding out of bounds. And he literally placed it at the sideline and the inbounds on the turf. And it was just, it's one of, like, that throw sticks out to me. You can get guys that do that, not even that throw, but I mean, that's just an ungodly, otherworldly throw. But you got guys that can keep their eyes downfield and improvise and, have the ability to extend plays. Defense can't cover forever. And, this kid seems to have some ability in doing that.
Yeah, like I said, the tape, and you mentioned it, tape was always going to make you look good, but he has an impressive tape for just a 3-star quarterback. He really does. I love the off-platform stuff. We brought up his arm strength. It doesn't look like it's elite or like a really positive trait of his, but I do think that's something you can kind of work on. You can get better technique-wise, mechanics, of course, get stronger. That's going to help. And who better to work on that than Jeff Brohm and Brian Brohm, two really, really, really good quarterbacks in their time. And the last thing I'll say, Kyle, you brought up his weight and stuff. That was very card topper of you, to bring it up the weight room and the pumping the iron. So.
Oh yeah, well,
he's gonna need at least 6%
pack on a little bit, but I mean, he's got
fat.
time. He's got time. He just needs to eat well, take some creatine, pump some iron. He'll be fine. But
yeah, I mean, he seems to have some sort of hitch in his throwing motion or something. Like he seems to have a little bit of stiffness in that shoulder, like I was kind of alluding to earlier. Like there seems to be some lack of range of motion or something. I don't know what that is. I'm just seeing.
He almost pushes the ball.
But I will say, that's not the end all be all. Like, no. And it can be worked on and improved.
Rest assured, Jeff and Brian will work that. They'll get that figured out.
And and again, this is not a kid you're bringing in. This is not a kid you're bringing in to say, hey, you need to be in the 2 deep your freshman year. Like, I fully expect, and it'll be tough, all right? Because like anybody that pays attention to recruiting and sees the buzz that Pierce Clarkson got, from Louisville, all of that entire recruiting process knows that Pierce is the guy that is in waiting, okay? But I fully expect this staff is going to bring in a high caliber quarterback this coming year. Like, I do think they're going to do that. It's just a business. I've gone back to that time and time again, and it's just the way that it is. Like, you have to do your job. You have to recruit guys. You have to get the best guys for your team and fill out roster spots and depth charts. And they're not going to have. It really doesn't seem like they're going to have a problem at all from some of the stuff we hear from the 502 Circle, from guys like Zach Soskin. Doesn't seem like they're going to have problem getting another guy this coming year.
Oh, no.
I think they're going to be. I think they're going to be fine, and they're going to do the damn thing. Like, that's all I can. Like, I have no doubts that the football recruiting is going just on another level that we've not seen.
Yeah. So I think what their plan is going to be, and I could be wrong here, but I think they're going to land another not grad transfer, but land another quarterback in the portal like they did with Jack Plummer, because he'll be moving on. And I think him and Pierce Clarkson, whoever the him is, will compete for that starting position. And then you'll have a guy like Deuce, who's probably third string starting out. And then you'll have the walk on from, I believe it's Trinity, who will be waiting in the wings as well. So you'll have some guys. I think you're going to get two guys who you really want to be able to interchange as quarterbacks at worst, because you know how easy it is for a quarterback to go down. Because like this year, for example, Jack Plummer goes down, we're in some deep shit, because even Pierce Clarkson, he's not getting much run this spring because he's had a foot or a toe injury. So he's already behind a little bit from what we would like, and then to throw him in there in the fall and then potentially have him starting because of an injury, I mean, it could be pretty rough. So we all know Satterfield didn't do us any favors with the quarterback position. So I assume that going forward, we are going to land another transfer portal quarterback to go with Deuce, and then roll out there with Pierce, Deuce, and this transfer guy, and may the best man win.
Yeah, and you kind of brought up the thing with Plummer this year, man. Everybody's got to be praying.
Yeah,
Jack makes it through.
Pray to the football gods, man, or whatever gods you believe in.
Just look at it. Behind him, you have Evan Conley, who hasn't played in 2 years, and Evan fought a lot of injuries. You have Brock Doman, who's probably a cheeseburger away from playing left guard. You got Caleb Johnson. We haven't seen a lot out of him. And then Pierce is just a true freshman, and he's missing some spring ball because of an injury. But I do like Deuce. I like the addition. I like how the depth chart's going to kind of work out in the future. You can come in and redshirt Deuce right away, bring in another portal quarterback next year, let him and Pierce kind of battle that out, and then have Deuce kind of in the waiting in the future. I like the future where we're at. And the last thing I want to mention, with Deuce coming out of Texas, Ross, and you mentioned how good would that be to start getting into Texas recruiting battles? We almost had
it with Ruben Owens.
Yeah, I was about to say
we almost did. We came that close.
Oh, man, that one still burns, man. Still burns.
Generational.
You know what's gonna happen. We're gonna see him he's gonna go ham sandwich, dude. You know it, because as a Louisville fan, we're like, why wouldn't he, right? Like, why wouldn't he? Why wouldn't, like, we're going to sit there and look at it and be like, man.
What's going to make me sick is when he scores a touchdown, they zoom in, he's got that 502 tattoo, and they show it zoomed in. That's just going to burn, man. I mean, I'm happy with Brohm, and sometimes you got to lose the gain overall, and you got to lose a little bit to gain more. And I hope
sometimes you got to lose the battle to win the war, man.
That's quite a battle to lose, but yeah.
Hey, man. I mean, it is what it is. I
wish I would have never watched Ruben Owens high school film. It's the worst decision I made in my life.
Nah, man. You gotta live for it, man.
It's the worst sports decision I've made. But man, I'd rather, ignorance is bliss, Ross. I'd rather not even know Ruben Owens from a Reuben sandwich. I mean,
you know that you don't even yourself believe. You don't even believe that yourself.
Brock Doman.
Brock really his way around a Reuben sandwich. Let me tell you.
If you really believed what you just said, Kyle, you would not even be on this podcast right now, man. So like, man. It just is what it is. I mean,
I never regret watching film. Well, I was gonna say I never regret watching film of guys that commit to Louisville, but that's actually not always true. I'm not gonna say who, but there's a couple of guys that are committed. I've watched film on that I kind of wish I didn't for other reasons. But I I am perfectly fine watching film on guys that commit that's good film. But I mean, another one's Keyon Menifield. Watching his film, I wish I didn't watch his. I wish I didn't know a thing about him. And you know what sucks? Not to get back on basketball, but he actually reminded me of the little Arkansas guard. I think his name was Likes, who played there last year or maybe the year before. And he played a lot like him, and now he's going to Arkansas. So I'm sure that was anyway,
maybe
back
it was
to better
maybe it
times
was
with
a selling
football.
point, man. You know, it you know, Texas produces quarterbacks, man. So I can name off quite a few. I'm not going to sit here and bore you with that, but I mean,
Arch Manning.
well, I'm not doing that.
Overrated.
Yeah, I mean, he might be good. I mean, I don't know,
I
but
think he's
I
overrated.
swear Arch plays against crisis actors in high school, man. I don't know. Some of them high school tapes, dude, that was something else. I don't know what kind of level of competition he's playing against, but man, that was something different.
did our
But no,
guys did our guy Todd just bring in Sandy Hook into our?
hey, I'm not doing that. No, we're not going down that rabbit hole. I'm just saying the level of competition he was playing against was just not what I expected at all. But no, it'll be really cool to bring up
Welcome,
to get into
Mikey.
some Texas recruiting battles. I've it's so refreshing going from, we're talking basketball earlier to football. I'm so pumped up and excited for football, man. I've told you all over the past year in Discord. Grew to be so apathetic to Louisville football over the past few years because I just couldn't stand Scott Satterfield, and I
It's tough.
just couldn't. Yeah, I couldn't do it. The whole South Carolina thing really just put a huge sour taste in my mouth, and everything he did afterwards was just I couldn't do it. And on the field, it wasn't
Yeah.
getting any better. I had grown to be so apathetic to Louisville football, and now this is just a breath of fresh air. I'm so pumped. I'm great. I'm so glad to be following recruiting again.
Yeah, I mean, not to get off on a tangent, but I mean, Scott and the staff with the emergence of NIL, they were very. I will just say they were very fortunate that NIL came to be when it did. I think that they were able to use that to get themselves out of here too. I'm completely fine with that. But him and that staff, for the most part, except for a very finite few, one being who's still on staff now. I'm so glad that we kept Ivy. I never, I'm sure they're good friends, but something about that last staff was just white bread, man. I mean, that's a simple way to put it. It was just like they were just sugar water and white bread. I mean, it's just boring. There was just nothing around them, even with them, having the buzz that they did this past year with the recruiting and the NIL. Just not a whole lot to be excited about. I mean, and so part of that was that, you had a lack of faith in their ability to possibly develop those players in the future down the road.
Sounds familiar.
Because that's exactly, I mean, we don't have to point that out but yes, that's, it was a problem. And I think it made a lot of us, it was like, okay, this is great, but, there's always this but, it's just like now with Brohm, it's like,
We're winning the championship.
there's a lot of optimism there,
No,
I
there is.
realized that Brohm and his his record and yada 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 aren't any really a whole lot better than Scott Satterfield's. But the thing is that everywhere Brohm has gone, whether it be Western Kentucky to Purdue, they've never had anything like what we have to offer at Louisville. And when he got there, within 2-3 years, he had them spiking at the highest levels that they've never seen before. And
Very
that to
true.
me is a big feather in your hat to coaching. It's a big feather in your hat for culture and getting kids to buy in. And now you've got NIL on top of it.
Mhm.
You're going to be able to build a foundation of kids that are going to be the next level to take U of L to that next level, while also you should be able to recruit kids that that can really make a first year impact out of the transfer portal. So it just the vibes are just totally different, and I didn't get to make it down to spring practice this past Saturday. I'm kicking myself for that, but didn't get down there. But if anybody listened to Rutherford's show on Big X Radio, shout out to Mike. He's my guy. He had his guy, Keith Wynn, on 2 days ago, and he was talking about open practice on Saturday. And, there was Keith had some pretty positive things to say about the QB room since the first open practice. Seemed like things were progressing pretty well. So I think that's a positive. I think one thing that was kind of eyebrow raising was that he said that Caleb Johnson was not participating, whereas he had been the previous 2 practices. So he didn't know what to really take of that. But if y'all want to know more about that, I would say go over to Card Chronicle and check out Keith's articles for sure.
Ross, do you know if Keith was around the offensive line, checking out the blocking techniques or anything? Or
yeah,
I know.
I don't know what the
I
joke
hear
is
Keith's
there.
pretty good at blocking.
Oh, you know.
Now look, Ty,
Oh,
if I
okay.
said that,
All
you would tell
right.
me I'm
I
done.
got it. All right.
I'm done.
You would tell me I'm done.
Enter Laura Dern, Jurassic Park meme. Woo! Just went over my head there for a minute, but I got it now. He did bring up the offensive line. He did say that he really liked the progression that he was seeing from guys like Luke Burgess. He talked about how he said that Luke, as a true freshman, is working in the solid 2 deep now.
Oh, that's great news. I love Luke Burgess. Love his
at
kid.
left tackle.
That's really nice.
He said that Madden Sanker was working at center, and he had some really impressive reps where he was standing up at times. Some of our better defensive tackles, defensive linemen. So I think the one big thing I took away from what he was saying, he said that the pace of the practice was really, really fast. He said they were getting a lot of plays off really, really, really fast. And that seems to be, that's something that we've come to see with Brohm when he was at Purdue for sure. He likes to go up tempo. So that seems to be something that we're probably gearing towards this coming year.
It's going to be a lot of fun to watch, man. The offense, the like to air it out and stuff. Now, I already know probably game 1, Jeff's going to run stretch left on the first play, and we're all going to be shaking our heads. But no, it's gonna be fun, man. I'm so excited, man. I cannot wait for football. I'm going to be there for the spring game. I hope it's great weather and we just have a ball. It's going to be so fun.
And since we're talking about spring,
is everybody going to be at the spring game?
I was gonna bring that up. Since we're talking about the spring game, right? Anybody that's in here watching, you're listening or you're on the podcast. If you're on the podcast and you're liking what you're hearing, click follow, subscribe, hit that like button. If you're we want to put out a poll, so to speak. Would you want us to do a live pod at the spring practice? Because we've been talking about this, and I think we're game, but we want to know what y'all think. And if you would like us to do that, I think we're down to do that.
Yeah, I say 50,000 likes, and we'll do a podcast from the spring game. How about that?
Yeah, let's not set the bar too low.
I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah,
50,000
we might
likes.
raise it from 50,000. I think we'll have
Yeah.
that by midnight with
Yeah,
all of our
probably.
Yeah, I
subscribers
mean,
right now.
let us know, y'all. Like, if you'd like us to do a live pod from the tailgate before the spring game, let us know. I mean, it's definitely something that we're talking about.
Yeah, now
we're
we will have
pretty.
to figure out how to do it. I don't legit like technology wise. I'm not that. I don't know. I've got a laptop. Not sure where to connect it to. How to hook. I don't know.
There's
We'll see.
there's nothing that Cards fans can't figure out, man. We'll figure it out for sure.
Oh.
So, yeah, let us know. And like I said, I think it's something we're gonna do. But just let us know what you think. So
as long as Kenny Payne's not in charge of bringing the equipment, because it'll get there probably a few weeks late. But as long as he's not in charge of that, we'll be.
You're done.
Okay. Well, all right. I'm done.
Oh, look, we had 10 comments. Oh, okay. It's the same comment 10 times. That's great. I was like, whoa, what did I miss?
Hey, Mikey's on a beach right now, man. He's in Isle of Palms. He's feeling no regrets, and he's feeling no pain.
He's on our pod from the beach. He's like, I don't even care about the ocean. It's not as good as the Third Banner pod.
That's real fandom right there. Thanks, Mike. We appreciate it.
Hey, Big Mike's my guy, man. Me and Mike go back all the way to 6th grade, Myers Middle School. RIP to our middle school. Don't even exist no more. Man. It don't even exist anymore.
Con, you are later than Kenny Payne recruiting a portal player. What's going on, man?
Ooh, man. So, yeah, Big Mike's my guy, man. I know Mike. We went to middle school together, and we
almost got rid of the football program. We need to thank Tom Jurich for that because, those were rough times. Now, on the trajectory we're on now, they might be talking about getting rid of our basketball program.
If you're listening to this, there's a greater chance than not that you're probably going to the spring game. But man, the juice that's going to be in that stadium for the spring game is going to be something we've been missing for a while. We didn't have it the entire time under Satterfield at all because his format was whack as hell. We would have already had our spring game like a month ago, and it would have been some.
Do you remember
mayonnaise.
Year one?
It would have been some mayonnaise and white bread. I don't know.
Do you remember Year one under Scott?
It would have been some Cane's chicken.
Okay, no,
it would have been some just whack
slander.
It would have been some whack just set up. So
what were you gonna say, Ty? Remember what?
Well, he was bringing up the format. Do you remember Year one with Scott? He didn't want to do a spring game. He wanted to do like a spring scrimmage, and they had
a winter game.
Yeah, I'm like, what the hell? I think we should have known then that this was not it.
Let's go play football with like 5 inches of snow on the ground in the winter in February, and
he's like, gee golly shucks, man, Dan McDonald and our baseball players do it.
The fact that Jeff Brohm did it the Friday before Thunder over Louisville just shows you he is from the area.
He knows. He knows what's up. Thank you, Cincinnati. Thank the Lord. Thank you, Cincinnati, for taking Scott off our hands. I don't know what we did to deserve that, but thank you, Cincinnati.
Man, it's the gift that keeps on giving.
I was gonna say you could do us a basketball favor, but I'm not trying to offend all the propane people. So, but depending on how next offseason goes. Keep an open mind, Cincinnati basketball. You never know what you can get.
Yeah,
pretty giving city.
Wes Miller might be looking for a new job. He's it's a big year for Wes Miller coming up. He's either gonna show out this year at Cincinnati and he's gonna get a better job, or he's gonna miss the tournament again this year and could get fired. So, hey, did it once, let deja vu happen, okay? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Now, listen. I want to take that back. I don't want to say that for real. I
I
really
want
don't want to say that.
KP to succeed, but let's be honest. If he
Yes,
doesn't this year, if he doesn't make the tournament,
yes,
we're talking about a
yeah.
whole different ballgame.
Listen, Kenny. I'm talking to you right now. Okay,
He's
we're all
listening.
in your corner. We are all in your corner. Seriously, the fan base is in your corner. We need you. Take a line out of your book. We need you to show us, man. It's a results driven game. Show us, prove it to us, so we can eat our worries, our fears, all of our pessimism. Make us go back on it. I will be the first one to do it for sure. I've done it before. I'll do it again. Have no problem with it.
I want to
Make us
look
do
back on
it.
this podcast and laugh at how stupid it was. The beginning of
Oh,
it, talking about
absolutely.
basketball.
I'm ready to
I want to be wrong about that. I want to be wrong. I want to be wrong.
make us wrong, Kenny.
It starts with Menifield. Make us think that Menifield's a joke. Like you land somebody 10 times
This is
better.
a really late
I'm
April
not
Fool's joke.
expecting that to happen. But hey, man, if you land somebody better and make me like, because I'm acting like I just lost my like high school sweetheart and she's broke up with me. Like
Hey,
that's how I'm feeling tonight.
Shout out Big Mike for saying, he said, live pod at scrimmage brought to you by Skyline.
Oh, Skyline Scott.
Oh,
Scott
man.
Satterfield. Oh, we need to
man.
love on
So
KP.
what do y'all think? Y'all, I mean, final words?
I have nothing actually, man.
It's hard to top. It's hard to top you, Ross, with the message to Kenny Payne. It's really tough to top that.
I mean, we're there, right? Like that's where we're at. Like we're on your team. We're all on the same team. We're all in the same nest.
Am I
if you
going
want
to
use
have
that.
to dip a quill in ink and write a handwritten letter to Kenny Payne? Because that's the only way I can one up it.
I mean, we're there. I mean, we give you your flowers, pun intended. After 2 weeks ago, it's time to keep that momentum going. Like, please give us something, man. Give us something. All of y'all. We're the biggest fans. We are the biggest fans. We want you all to succeed. Third
Mikey
banner
says
wants
this
you
is
all
the
to
best
succeed.
third pod band or the best third pod yet. Although here's the plot twist: Mikey's been in here, I'm pretty sure, for 15 minutes. So it's like no wonder he thinks it's the best pod yet. And he's on the beach, so it's like it could totally suck sitting at your house. But I mean,
Nope.
all of us sound much better when there's waves in the background and sunshine.
So, well,
Tron said make Louisville great again, but I'm pretty sure any slogan that sounds like that is being indicted right now and is going behind bars. So you gotta be careful, my man.
Oh, okay, Tron. I think you're done.
Hey.
Actually,
messed around and got locked up. Won't let me out.
Oh man. All right. Well, speaking of getting locked up, I need to get locked up in my bed because
Yeah, guys. It's always a good one. We appreciate you all coming out here, giving us the time, giving us a listen. Like I said before, if you're liking what you're hearing, give us a follow, give us a subscribe on YouTube, hit that like button, hit those alerts, hit those notifications, and, we'll see you on the next time.
go Cards.
go Cards.
Go Cards, baby.